Just going back quickly to, we were talking about wars and sort of the future of wars and what it might look like, this hybrid warfare model. Do you see sort of conflicts picking up in frequency over the next like 10 to 15 years? Do you see them, like a lot more sort of smaller conflicts, civil conflicts, or will there be, an impending, big conflict on the horizon? Yeah, do you have thoughts about that?
I just want to say I'm not an expert on these things before people sort of, yeah, you know what I mean? I'm not like
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't have, I have a master's degree, but I don't have any credentials to my name. Geopolitics for me is just sort of a passion. Like I have a day job as well. I'll be walking around the streets for my day job and I'll be thinking about geopolitics.
yeah,
So
fascinating stuff.
uh, that's sort of where I get my, not expertise, but sort of knowledge. Knowledge is probably the right word from just to get that out of the way before. But yeah,
Yeah.
obviously. So what was the question? Bigger, more frequent conflicts in sort of hybrid fashion.
Yeah, yeah. Do you see like more conflicts happening on a smaller scale or, fewer, but they're larger conflicts or, you know,
Um,
just trends in general?
I actually couldn't tell you. I mean, obviously the world is becoming more multipolar.
Yeah.
Sort of a cliche thing to say nowadays because everyone that does international relations or geopolitics says that. But it is trending that way. But obviously
Yeah.
the US is still out on top. But yeah, no, in terms of smaller conflicts, I don't know, make perhaps.
So I'm just thinking, I feel like hybrid warfare sort of levels the playing field, so to speak, right? Like there are some countries that maybe didn't have the military force to be able to, uh, survive a conflict or initiate conflict with another
Yeah,
state. But now that you're able to, damage another country through cyberspace or other means, it feels like, the opportunity for conflict is now rising.
you've brought an example to mind straight away there. You've jogged my memory, but look at the United Arab Emirates. Have you watched my video on the United Arab Emirates? Sort of plug my own channel a bit here, but
I haven't seen that one yet. What's it about?
it's quite an old. It's a fairly old one. It's not great quality, but the United Arab Emirates is starting to make big moves, like in the Red Sea area, the Gulf of Aden, Yemen. It's not publicized really at all, but trying to link this
In
thing
the
where I was
Red
going with
Sea,
this.
right?
Sorry.
It's this video right
That's it.
here.
Yeah, yeah. So obviously, everything I talk about links in a certain way. If you know what I mean, this is what I was saying about everything merging into one. The
Right.
United Arab Emirates is hiring private military companies and sending them to Yemen. Well, I can't. It's not in the official capacity. If you get what I mean, I don't want to
Of course.
outright say it on here for misinformation, but
Allegedly.
yeah, yeah. A lot
Many
of
people are saying.
yeah, yeah, and they're using hybrid strategies in those countries, like they're gaining political influence by buying up ports. I think Dubai Ports World is looking at Eritrea quite a lot. I think it's Assab and Massawa. My pronunciation is terrible. Djibouti, they just got kicked out of Djibouti a couple of years ago. I think the Djiboutians sold their port concessions to the Chinese, I think, or
Yeah. I think that's the only Chinese military bases in Djibouti.
yeah, yeah. Funnily enough, the I think it's quite close to the base, like the port concession that I think it's Dorala, it's called. It's Berbera in Somaliland or Somalia, whichever you want to choose. Puntland as well. Have you heard of Puntland before?
I haven't.
It's
Putinland?
a Puntland.
Puntland, no.
Puntland. So basically, I can't remember what city it is, but the UAE has sort of gone against actually Dubai Ports World is banned in Somalia, yet they operate and United Arab Emirates has relations with Puntland, which is an autonomous region of Somalia, and Somaliland, which is a breakaway separatist region of Somalia. So that sort of links in with the hybrid sense. They're garnering political influence in those countries and using the private military companies to fulfill the kinetic aspect that they might not be able to fulfill themselves. I'm not sure what the population is of the UAE, but obviously they don't have as strong military capability of their own, so they use other people. Cyber, I don't know their capacity, but it's interesting. Like it's just as I say, everything's merging into one, and that's how they're making their sort of geostrategic moves. I mean, a lot of people use the word geostrategy, but I think it sounds cool, so I use it quite a lot.
It's a great word.
Do you think that states
word.
are sort of getting... It seems like states aren't prepared for hybrid warfare, especially big states like the United States that have sort of just been able to coast, usually with posture and threats in cyberspace. It seems like they're pretty vulnerable to hybrid attacks, whether it's like directly to infrastructure online, to
Elections, cough,
disinformation,
cough.
potentially elections. There's no evidence that would work. I'm thinking a lot of Americans have money tied up in Bitcoin. We know that
Well, that's
China
another.
has a lot of the mining power on Bitcoin. Who's to say that if China were to engage in hybrid warfare, they wouldn't try to do a 50+% attack on Bitcoin and cause
Absolutely.
havoc in that way? So, like, are there states that you think are getting better prepared for it? Do you think a smaller country like the UK is better positioned to sort of defend themselves in hybrid warfare?
So the UK and the US. I mean, as I say, I'm not an expert, but it just seems like we're a bit slow at the moment. Like we're not like
Except for
Russia.
vaccines. Except for vaccines.
Yeah, we're pretty good at that. We can give ourselves that, to be fair. We're just a bit. We're sort of a bit cumbersome in that regard. I mean, I think the UK is starting to move towards it. I'm not sure about the US, but I think we were going to have an army without tanks at one point, or there was some sort of news story about us not having any tanks anymore because what use are tanks? You just get a drone to blow them up. Like, and you look at Nagorno-Karabakh, Turkey won that war through giving the Azerbaijanis drones. It's just the technological side of it. But yeah, what was the question again? The states are different states are.
Yeah, like sort of like which states, if any, are sort of positioning themselves better to handle it.
Russia, 100%. Russia has quite obviously with this collapse of the Soviet Union. I think their military just fell apart and was. I remember learning about the Chechen War and people, the soldiers selling their weapons because they were so poor, and then they were selling them to local militants. And obviously now that's sort of turning around, and they're sort of thinking to the future. They don't have the It's like you say, Estonia didn't have the resources. It built a digital state. The Russians, they want their great power status and their standing on the world stage. To do that, they need to have a adaptable army and an army capable of projecting force in all avenues of warfare, cyber, kinetic, political. They're just. I don't want to say they're the world's leader because I couldn't tell you. I don't know if anyone could tell you that, but they are thinking that way, and I think the US is starting to cotton onto it quite a lot after Crimea, obviously, and the Donbass and stuff like that. But the US is probably the best at fifth generation warfare, I'd say. Like, look at the recent protests in Russia and Belarus. I could almost say for certain that the US probably has some sort of connection to it, and Ukraine as well. Most certainly, the European Union certainly does as well. I mean, Navalny's a whole interesting one for me. I don't know how much you know about Alexei Navalny, but he's not popular within Russia at all. Sorry, I think your audio's gone.
Oh, yeah, I was just saying not at all. Yeah, he's got a little cult following, but yeah, not the majority, I wouldn't say.
Well, in the West, we turn on the tap and everything's Alexei Navalny's great,
but we're probably going to forget about him, right? If we were to make a forecast, we gave up on Juan Guaido, the Venezuelan, right? Remember the Trump administration? There was that.
Guaido? Yeah. I can't remember his name.
Do you remember when like everyone was like, "Oh my God!" Like they're gonna. It was with Maduro, right?
Yeah, that sort of struck me as fifth generation warfare, as in you trying to politically change the country instead of just marching in there and having regime change as well.
Would you consider the Belt and Road Initiative sort of fifth generation warfare? And that, like, it's not even really warfare, but
it's Venezuela,
if you think about warfare in terms of trying to gain influence in another country, I feel like China's doing that just through economic development as opposed to troops on the ground, and they seem to be successful so far.
This links back to the classical geopolitics as well, because you look at heartland theory. I'm not sure how much you know about that. I think his name's Halford Mackinder. He went to my school, actually, funnily enough. He's not his old boy. sort of old school
One of the fathers of geopolitics, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I should have said that, should I? People know I went to school now. Oh well. But yeah, heartland theory is like if you control sort of Central Asia, Eastern Europe places. That's what. Look at where China's moving into, the Belt and Road Initiative. China, Eastern Europe, Central Asia, Russia. Then if you control the world island, you control the world.
Exactly.
So, what you're saying? It's in terms of hybrid, or
yeah, I just feel like the way that China's been getting influence is sort of in that fifth generation model where it's less military focused and more gaining influence, more, peaceably.
Anti-imperialist foreign policy, I think, is the word, or non-imperialist, or something like that.
Unless you're Taiwan.
Fitting.
Yeah. YouTube.
Yeah.
Oh wait. We can't.
And
I
the
think we
world
can talk
island,
about Taiwan.
like the world island's also interesting just from a U.S. perspective. Clay and I have talked, and I've told him that one of the things that was so troubling about the Trump administration for me was that it felt like we were sort of losing a lot of influence on the world stage, and as that was happening, Eurasia was sort of congealing, and the world island was coming together. And I think we're seeing that more with this China-Russia collaboration. The U.S. could be left on the sidelines of the next 50, 100 years of geopolitics.
I think after
Brexit, kind of
Brexit,
scary.
you'll always have us after Brexit, I think.
I think that's right.
Us Brits, but I'm just joking about it. Yeah, no, it's true. But then again, you look into history and you see before the Second World War, the sort of isolationism in America, like no one really wanted to. I'm not sure about the First World War, but it's just obviously you have these historical trends, and I think they stem from geography. Like the US it is a isolated place when you think about it. I mean, probably less so now because Mexico and a lot of South American countries have sort of developed a bit more. And before it was sort of the US and Canada, was it not? Just chilling over just they didn't have much of a connection.
Yeah.
Before, so